I'm Akanksha Kamath, Fashion Features Director at Vogue India, and I'm so thrilled to be hosting a panel on the rise, and I should add, staying power of ungendered natural diamond jewelry. We have with us some of the industry's most forward-thinking minds. We have Rosh Mahtani of Aligiri, who joins us today from London, and she is known for her modern heirlooms that have a very personal touch. Her signature molten textures and jewelry steeped in symbolism are an invitation for people of all cultures, genders, and ages to write their own poetry with jewelry. We also have with us today the wonderful duo behind Human, Pranav Misra and Shyma Shetty. They started out in 2012 when not many were talking about the ungendered aspects of clothing, and I can't wait to understand where they saw the gap in the market, where they are today now, when everyone else has sort of joined the bandwagon and quite happily. And we also have with us Rahi Chadda, who is an entrepreneur, visual director, and model who is creating a cultural dialogue between the East and the West. Hi, everyone. Hi.
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 So my first question is to the Human duo. Shyma, let's start with you, and then Pranav can chip in as well. When you started Human 12 years ago, did you realize that there was a gap in the market for a brand that catered to gender fluid individuals and non-compliant identities? And how did you fill in this gap?
At that point, we thought that, the objective of fashion is to just empower individuals. It has to be for everyone. So we didn't have these frameworks in mind of who it should fit, what kind of person, in terms of the boxes that society put them in, whether it's gender, it's, a particular body type, it's an age, or we just wanted to make clothes that made people happy. We had a wider idea of who our audience was. And I think over the years, that idea evolved, and every season we learned more about who our customer is and who we wanted to make clothes for. And this person didn't fit into that box. So I think as far as thinking about gender, we always felt like it wasn't a construct around which our clothes were made.
I think she's very wonderfully put the thought together, and I think if I have to add that, I feel like whether it's life or your entrepreneurial journey, your purpose is almost accidental in nature. It stems out of an idea, but you have to go through a lot of learnings and unlearnings over a period of time for you to actually grow and evolve with the times and contribute. And I think Human's 10 years journey, when we look back now, we feel fortunate to have been a part of the community, and the community has sort of contributed in our growth. So when I see Human, I don't see Human as an agenda driven brand to sort of solve problems, so to speak, but I look at Human more like a reflection of what society desires, or almost like a progressive skeptic. You have to have your vision towards a very bright, beautiful future, but at the same time that is only achievable when at every turn you are trying to question your beliefs, and you have to you have to be very receptive of the society around you. So I think it's been a journey more than a start point and an end point.
Progressive skeptic. I think I'm gonna note that down for future use. Rosh, coming to you, you are now making jewelry for every human, and Aligiri Man was a sort of a recent bit that you kind of got into, and I want to understand that, has it been transitional for you, or was it always the plan? Did you always think of diamonds and jewelry as universal?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for me, jewelry has always been essentially like a mode of communication, a very human mode of communication since, the beginning of time across every culture. And that's always what I loved about it. It was this kind of common language in a world where, when I started my brand, I felt very much like, and I still do in many ways, that, the world can be very divisive, politics and religion can feel very divisive. And it left me as a human being feeling very lost about, my sense of belonging. And what I loved about jewelry as this kind of, as objects, was that, they were a way of showing love, of feeling protected, of feeling empowered, of fortifying friendships. And in every way that transcends, as the guys were saying previously, it transcends all gender and age and culture. It's about being human. So, when I started the brand, I was always designing for human beings. And I think maybe at that time, it was kind of 8.5 years ago now, we always had men buying from us as well as women. And maybe it's just, it was rarer then. And what we've seen is, which is amazing over the last, 4 or 5 years, or specifically maybe 3 years, is that more and more men who would previously not have felt confident enough to wear jewelry are now really excited to wear jewelry. I mean, I always take my brother as an example of this because he works in finance. He's my little brother. And when I first started the brand, I said, why don't you help me out with, some data analysis, and I'll give you some necklaces. And he was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I would wear a necklace. And so funny seeing, around 2 years ago, him coming to me and saying, do you think maybe I could have a necklace? And then him coming back last year and saying, maybe I'm ready for my layer. And his friends doing the same. And we've seen this real progression of men who previously would have felt afraid to wear it, steal it from their partner's bedside table and start sharing it. And for me, it's exactly what I wanted for Alighieri, and what I hoped was that, to create a brand that would allow people to feel confident to express their sense of individuality. And I mean, if you look back at paintings, tapestries, mythology, pirates, hunter-gatherers, men and women have always worn ornaments to protect themselves. It's always been a very human thing. So sorry, it's a very long answer to your question, but I've always seen jewelry as a way of, communication for human beings, essentially.
Yeah. And I think Rahi, who's here with us, is pretty much like the living existence of how to kind of wear jewelry. Every ring, every finger is every ring.
Pretty much.
How do you like to wear your jewelry, Rahi, and even, just personal style when it comes to just blurring genders a bit?
I think jewelry for me has just had such a special meaning, and it's a process. I think especially when it comes to wearing and collecting jewelry and sort of finding what pieces really work for you. If I was to speak in terms of diamonds in particular, I think for me it's just been such a great investment to make, and it's really a symbol of self-love. It's something that I like to indulge in whenever I can, and it's something which is also like a token of appreciation to myself. When it comes to gender boundaries, I don't really like to think about it too much, especially when it comes to jewelry. I think it's just about not really having any apprehension. Like what Rosh said, men have just become so much more forward thinking, and the audience is just so intelligent now and so creatively inclined to just have fun with what they wear without any kind of apprehension as such.
And I also see that with Pranav and Shyma, both of you as well, the kind of collaborations you do, the kind of design aesthetic you have. Do you approach genders design-wise? Do you approach it very differently?
It's like how Rahi said, it's about apprehension. And I feel like people are so much more open today to explore who they are rather than what they should be and, what boundaries they should fit into based on their gender. So it's a really exciting space. And I also think it's not an individual conversation. Fashion is always a reflection of what society is going through. And this is a conversation that we see all over. We see this every day, talking about identity and, self-love and all of these things that really empower people. And that's what's trickled down into clothing as well. Like clothing shouldn't be for, it shouldn't not be for a particular gender. People should be allowed to enjoy what they want to enjoy and express themselves fully.
Also, I have a very simple view of that. Anything which is material, anything which is not living, does not have a choice of its own. It's literally an object. It's us humans who have a choice. So how can clothes have, choose between men and women, or in particular, or how can food have choices when it comes to genders? it's us, the choice is ours. And I feel like when you have that kind of power within you, I think it's the world is open, you know, it's like a wide playground. You can choose, and it's like a huge catalog right in front of you. It's totally tailor made to who you are and what your style is, and you pick up whatever you enjoy.
I think that's quite interesting. I totally agree with you in terms of like these are objects, but what I think is actually what just made me think about the idea of actually the objects being living when it comes to diamonds. In some ways they are alive, right? Like they grow in the earth and they transform. It's like this transformation, essentially. It's carbon. We are also made of carbon. Like, and I love that idea when it comes to diamonds, of the fact that it is this actually a growing, living organism, almost like a creature, and each one is, you know, completely unique. Obviously they can be cut in certain ways to replicate.
You know, someone else as well said that, and we've had a few panels, right? And I think it was Valerie Messica who said diamonds are energy. You know, they're like energy giving objects. Yeah.
To add to like the whole energy aspect, a lot of, like, as I've spoken to Vogue about this before, some of the stones that I've particularly chosen to worn have sentimental value. They've got meaning. I also really like working with, and I'm proudly saying that I work with an astrologer when it comes to deciding what stones I really like to wear, because they do carry energy. And I think for me, it's like, you know, Shyma, I love the word you used, empowering, because jewelry really does have that effect. It can really empower you. It can really elevate an outfit, but at the same time, it connects me to my core, to my personality. And in a way, it's like a talisman for me, you know.
Also, I think in Indian culture, it's always been heirlooms, right? Diamonds have always been passed down. And I think we had this few decades where men stopped wearing it, and it just cut them off from that joy of just having family heirlooms that you can enjoy. So I hope we go back there.
Why did that happen? Like, why did it stop?
I feel like social norms,
Yeah,
you know, they just always take over. And I think cultural aspects and people, I think in the West, we've always seen like the 70s and 80s and 90s really saw like a lot of creative expression. But I think in the East, it was particularly subdued. But I think with, you know, brands like Human and jewelry brands like the one that Rosh has, I feel there is a new message that's really being sent out to the millennials, to the Gen Zs, where they're just wanting to creatively express themselves through what they wear and who they are.
Are you guys seeing that at Human? Are you seeing, how is Gen Z shopping? What are they shopping? How are they wearing things? I'm very curious. And also, like, how does jewelry fit into that as well?
I think I'm very inspired by the, you know, by the younger community. That is something I feel like the younger kids are the kids who define what's cool. And as an entrepreneur and as a creative entrepreneur, I have to sort of, you know, I have to see that as the focal point, because that's what the future is. And I feel like when I see them making choices, it's very vibrant and it's very progressive. And 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when I was growing up, I saw a lot of rigidity, which I think other panelists have already spoken about, between genders. But I think those lines are blurring, which makes it a very inclusive space for us to operate in.
I think what I find interesting about our customers is that men and women who live in the same house tend to share the same human garment, which I find very exciting, because our fits are such that anyone can wear it, but to have a man and woman wear it differently. Somebody wears our t-shirt as a dress, someone's just styling it with shorts or trousers or whatever. The styling is so different, but it's the same garment, and it takes on the person. You know, it's not a garment then, it's an extension of who that person is, and that's really beautiful and inspiring to me.
Rosh, coming to you, and I think I asked the Human duo as well, how do they approach clothing and design differently for the genders? How do you approach diamonds differently for, say, man and woman? Like, does that cross your mind? I feel like Dantian and diamonds is universal appeal, but
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think about, when I'm designing, I don't think about a separation kind of at all. I think, you know, especially when it comes to diamonds, what we're seeing a lot of, which I really love at the moment, is, you know, obviously traditionally that diamond engagement ring is, you know, has been such a big deal for marketing with, you know, bigger brands, especially over the last kind of 50, 60 years. And what we're seeing a lot at the moment is guys and women coming in to design their own engagement rings with diamonds. And we started using, you know, rough diamonds, rough cut diamonds a few years ago. And that came, you know, from me kind of stumbling upon them with one of our suppliers and finding this batch of diamond shards, which were just absolutely magical. And the supplier saying, oh, these, like, really, like, nobody really wants these. And I was like, give them to me, I'm obsessed with them. And they're essentially offcuts. And what's been amazing is that, you know, you've got this cohort going back to Gen Z and the younger demographic. You've got this cohort of, you know, men and women in their, you know, 20s and 30s who can't necessarily afford that, you know, that De Beers diamond, even if they would want it. And they're coming in saying, you know, I've got quite a modest budget. I really want to do a bespoke diamond ring as an engagement ring or as a gift, or for myself. And these kind of rough diamonds, unpolished, offcuts, is just such an exciting way to make diamonds really more accessible. And in some ways, you know, they come in these kind of salt and peppers and darker shades. So moving away from that kind of traditional idea of diamonds being a symbol of status, which has always made me a little uncomfortable, you know, that idea of diamonds being, you know, an exhibition of wealth, and saying, like, you're taking it back to, you know, what it should be is that, you know, these pieces of fragments of earth, essentially. And I'm finding that really exciting at the moment, designing with these shards and these imperfect.
Sounds amazing. Like maybe Rosh, you can sprinkle this with some diamonds as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to show on a camera, but for instance, one of the rings I'm wearing at the moment, I made for the website, and then I just loved it too much. Going back to what Rahi was saying, if sometimes you put something on and I was like, this belongs with me, and I just couldn't sell it. It's got these kind of hang on, let me get it in focus. Not the easiest, but they're kind of imperfect shards in kind of traditional bigger kind of jewelry diamond cutting houses. They would probably have just gotten rid of them. And I like that idea again of using every fragment of the earth, not wasting anything, and celebrating imperfection, taking away from that idea of, you know, cut, clarity, carat.
Yeah. Rahi, how do you like to wear your diamonds?
Do you know what? I really love what Rosh is saying about imperfection. And I think that's something that I would like to add to, in that when it comes to investing in diamond jewelry, I really think that it is definitely an investment that reigns supreme. But at the same time, there is a beauty about having an evolved mindset in choosing the types of jewelry that you want to wear, something that is different, something that is meaningful. Also, strong linear designs. I find that they have a sort of timeless appeal to them. It's something that's classic, that you can sort of, you know, put on with any outfit. If I was to just show you my ring, I like wearing this diamond ring with a sapphire in the center.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Sapphire, huh? That's a tricky stone.
Yes, and I've been wearing it for quite some time now, but this is the ring that I usually wear on a day-to-day basis. And it really just allows me to channel my identity. Like, I can project my energy through this ring. That's how I feel. I feel empowered. I feel strong, confident when I wear it. And then I have other rings that, you know, and my bracelet that I would just otherwise typically take off because it doesn't really go with every look. As I've sort of evolved in my creative journey and in my own personal sense of style, I think the kind of pieces that I would like to invest in now would definitely be more classic and timeless pieces, rather than going for something which I'm just buying for the sake of, like, going on a trend, because trends fade away. Do you know what I mean? It's really about just having something which is classic. What we're essentially trying to do is just, like, break away from these social norms and create something which just identifies with us.
And Pranav and Shyma, any diamond stories for you? Any personal diamonds?
Yeah, I wanted to show you something that is a part of my heart. I think this one ring that I have is a very traditional. Can you see it? Okay. Can you guys see it?
Oh yeah.
So this is called a vanki, and it's a traditional Mangalorean ring design, which is a V on both sides. And almost every Mangalorean woman that I know has a version of this with diamonds or without diamonds. And it's supposed to signify that life has a lot of ups and downs, and you carry forth and, you embrace life as it goes. And this is a ring that is given to Mangalorean women generally by an elder in their family when they get married. So this ring is something that I'm very fond of. It's an heirloom that I will probably carry for a long time and pass down.
I love that. I think what's interesting as well, we're seeing a lot of people come in with diamonds, and this is not unusual when you think of like Indian tradition of having your family jeweler, or as my mum likes to say, jeweler. We're seeing a lot of people come in with diamonds from their grandparents that they want to reset and reinvent for themselves. And I love that, like taking a fragment of the past and transforming it into something for the future is really exciting.
Yeah, like in my family over generations, women in the family have always worn a diamond earring, which is like a floral design, eight diamonds surrounded by a solitaire in the middle. And that's something that keeps passing down, and people keep changing how they want to wear it. So I turned my grandmom's earring into a pendant. And then one of my sisters got the other pair, and now she's trying to figure out if she wants to do a ring or another pendant with it. So it's so interesting how it can become your own, and it has a story that you can carry.
I've got a really fun heirloom story that I'd like to share. So my dad was selling, just a bit of background, but he was selling his property in India, and he came back to London with a couple of like these vintage tins. And within that, when we opened up the tins, wrapped in cotton wool and tissue paper was his like grandmother's wedding jewelry. And a lot of it was like the traditional nose ring, the matha patti, there was like a massive tika, and we just ended up getting that, what's the word for it, where we just got it refreshed. We got it cleaned up, we got it refreshed. We got it restored. And obviously, like, no one's probably going to wear it, but it's just really fun to keep. And it's like, it tells a little story, and it's a part of history that you just get to carry forward. It's meaningful.
So special.
Yeah, no, you have to repurpose it, Rahi, and wear something of it.
Something, yeah.
Giant crown.
Imagine me with a matha patti. I think that would be quite iconic.
Maharajas used to do it.
Love it.
Pranav, what about you? Any diamonds, and how do you wear them? Do you wear it with a human t-shirt?
I definitely have a jewelry story. I've had the opportunity to sort of collaborate with different artists from around the world, and recently, and I do enjoy jewelry, and I have this ring which is not diamond, but then I collaborated with this LA-based prosthetic artist and ring maker, and I basically, the stories, I visited Mount Vesuvius in Pompeii, and I liked the cinder cone shape of the extinct volcano over there. So we made this handmade volcano ring, which is,
Love that.
if this fits the narrative, but this is something that I really enjoy because this takes me back to the space that I really I'm fond of historically.
And I love jewelry where when you wear it, it's like what Pranav is saying, that when he wears it, it takes him back to a memory. And I think that's the power that jewelry has, and clothes also have. Like fashion has that, jewelry has that power. It takes you back to a memory.
I don't know if I don't know if this memory would qualify under Proustian movement.
I love that.
It does. It holds a memory. That's what it is. I would love to go around the room and ask all of you whom you think wears their jewelry in the most amazing gender neutral way.
I love the way my mum wears her jewelry because it's very simplistic. Like she has like a wedding band that she always wears. And she's got these earrings that in the shape of a flower as well that she's been wearing for decades. And for me, it's just very special because it's very simplistic, but there's a beauty in that simplicity. And if I was to say from, the Gen Z sort of movement, I love the way Lil Nas X wears his jewelry. It's something which is very gender fluid and very relevant to what we're talking about. He wears jewelry which can be masculine or feminine, but on him, it just looks like his version of self-expression. I find that very cool. I also recently discovered a ring that my friend was wearing, and for me that was really fun because it's been an heirloom passed on by his grandmother. It's also created by natural elements, so that's quite special, but it's an Edwardian ring and the diamonds cluster into the shape of a crown. And what I really love about it is that it's a woman's ring, but him wearing it is the meaning that he has is that it's defying social norms, but at the same time, it's not dictated by fashion. It's special to him, and that's why he wears it. And I think that also ties in with how the emotion that I feel behind jewelry.
I love how Rahi wears his jewelry.
I was just going to say.
It looks like such an extension of his personality, and yeah, it's very interesting how you put yourself together. I love it. Otherwise, I can't think of individuals. I can't think of a particular name, but I enjoy people watching so much, whether it's like Instagram flipping or how, celebrities wear it, or when you walk into an Indian wedding, you see people, how they dress. It's so exciting. Especially in my culture, in Mangaloreans, everybody loves jewelry so much, not just the women, the men. And there's this culture of really adorning yourself, and especially when it comes to cultural events or weddings and such, people really adorn themselves, and it's such a joy to watch them enjoy their jewelry.
Yeah, in our culture, we even for the sherwanis and whatnot, there's diamonds on the buttons, and there's
exactly
the way for men to adorn themselves, as you said, and it's quite beautifully, very graceful. I find it very graceful.
We always wear a belt with saris, so it's usually encrusted with natural stones, and it's so beautiful because everyone designs their own, and it's not cookie cutter. It's very interesting to see.
Rosh, what about you?
Oh my gosh, I mean, so many people. I would say, firstly, I'm loving Rahi. Your ring situation is super incredible. I'm really into it. I feel inspired just looking at it. And I mean, yeah, my mum as well, she doesn't wear much jewelry, and I'm kind of the maximalist with my jewelry. And she's very simple, and she wears, 3 very simple bangles, very thin bangles. And I have this memory of, actually, these are inspired by her, in that when I was a kid, when she'd come home from work, this is the sound I would hear when she was opening the door. And for me, it was the sound of my mum coming home. And that sound for me is really special. So she's a big inspiration. I love seeing how our clients wear their jewelry. I mean, I love encouraging people to kind of mix, high, low. So I know traditionally it's you wear diamonds with diamonds, and you wear, I don't like even the phrase costume jewelry, but you don't mix things that aren't diamonds or aren't solid. But I love the idea of mixing, different layers of jewelry based on, price point. I think that's what makes it really interesting. I think it's quite easy to, get the whole look, but what makes it fun is that kind of a piece of string that you collected on your adventures, and then, an amazing diamond cocktail ring. I make everything by hand in the wax, and it goes through the casting process, which means that the metal goes up to, over 1,000 degrees Celsius. And we use this process called casting in place with diamonds. And diamonds are one of the only stones that can withstand that process. So we set each stone actually not in the metal, but actually in the wax. And they're one of the only stones that can go back to that temperature without cracking or shattering, but it allows them to be kind of set in this quite molten way. And for me, that's always been, I show you kind of, they're kind of set like
Yeah.
that's almost kind of emerging. And that's the only stone that can do that. And for me, that kind of epitomizes everything about the strength of a diamond, and the strength that it gives you, because it can go to those extreme temperatures and that they're born from extreme pressure, essentially. So to me, they're very much a reminder that, difficult times make you stronger.
That's so interesting. It looks so organic, like it just evolved into that shape.
Organic was actually such a nice way of putting it, because it does feel like, just a flow and organic. Yeah.
I think the first figure that comes to my head is obviously my great grandmother. I had the fortune of seeing both my great grandfather and great grandmother, and she used to wear big anklets and a lot of gold bangles, and back in the day, which was the norm for women. They used to be so much accessorized. And the thing I found most beautiful was that after, when you have a piece of jewelry kept with you for a period of time, the person's not there, but then the jewelry has that essence of that person. So I like the romance behind jewelry in that sense. One strong figure that comes to my head is obviously Michelle Lamy. She's been a huge inspiration for me creatively. I find that woman very inspiring in the way she chooses to wear her jewelry.
Amazing. And I think my last question to, I think, Rosh and Rahi, and please pitch in as well, Shyma and Pranav, would be that, people who are watching this and they're curious and want to kind of experiment with jewelry for the first time and don't know where to start, what advice would you give them? What styles and pieces should they look for that are kind of gender bending and they want to experiment,
I would say to really just go with the flow, do your research, and really see what works for you. I think for, people who are investing in diamonds for the first time, I think it's not an investment that you want to take very lightly. And for that reason, it's just really important to see what's around. Like I said, I personally love more classic cuts because they've got a timeless appeal. So that would be like my advice to them. But at the same time, you just want to see, just have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Don't think about it too much. But at the same time, just do enough research that, your heart knows when you found the right piece.
I think so. I think it's that intuition, and just feel it. Don't worry too much. We get people who are so worried that they come in, they're like, I'm so worried about making the wrong choice. And you're like, just how does it feel? Does it feel right? And for me, it's that just, it needs to feel right on your skin. Try it on, put it on your skin. I think it's that kind of, it's a physical connection.
Pranav and Shyma, I would love to know, what do you think the future of gender fluidity in fashion looks like? And where do we go from here? What's next?
I think perception of who one is, what one must like, and what one must wear has changed so much. And it's just going to be this major shift where people are going to feel more free to express who they are without having to please somebody else. To put it in the most simple way, I think it's going to be exciting times ahead.
I think currently how we are placed is, I would say this is the tip of the iceberg, or we literally have started to create dialogue around it, and a very elite community has had the opportunity, or at least physical space to experience that and to be vocal around it. But what I'm very excited about is for these thought leaders to keep contributing, so that this actually reaches the the ground and to the masses, because that is the future that I'm very excited about, and that needs a lot of work, which needs a lot of constant pushing from tastemakers such as Rahi or Rosh, or all the community of designers and stylists and creators, for them to be vocal about that. And I think it will take decades for it to reach and become a very normal part of society at large, and that is something that I'm very looking forward to, that future.
Yeah, I feel like it's a community at the moment, but it's kind of growing, it's kind of letting people in. And when it looks so good, then it's going to invite more people in, you know?
Yeah, I think it's also about, like you said, the community who are influencing aspiration in the consumers, and especially this move away from the male gaze is something that's really interesting. We're seeing it so much in our fashion imagery and our content as well, and I think it's a step forward. With like reclaiming what we want our bodies to look like, and it's like a mindset shift that's going to happen, and not just a silhouette shift.
Yeah. And jewelry is such a big part of this as well.
Jewelry is such a big part of this, yeah.
I just have to thank all of you for being here. And, you know, you are sort of the thinkers and creators who are paving a way for you're making diamonds and fashion and jewelry democratic, you know, kind of opening it up and saying all are welcome. There's no this way or that way. It's who you are, how you want to sort of express yourself. And I think this was a conversation that sort of really puts that together for anyone who's watching, and probably even invite them into the dialogue, you know. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Akansha.
Thank you.
Thank you.